Hi, everybody. It's Rob Jolliffe from Sabre Limited, and we're here for another Sabre Limited Expert Minute. So let's just jump in. All right. So today we're going to talk about when should I customize my Business Central ERP. This could be any ERP system, but we're gonna dive into that question. I'm Rob Jolliffe. I am president of Sabre Limited. We're a Microsoft Dynamics Business Central partner serving the North American and, frankly, the English-speaking world market. A couple of assumptions. We specialize in manufacturing, so I'm going to be assuming that my audience are manufacturing companies, although you could be from any other type of industry, and a lot of this is still going to be relevant. But one of the big points that I think is only going to be relevant to companies of a certain size. So if you're a very, very large business, this might not be as relevant as to an SMB, a small and medium business that has, let's say, not a full-time IT team, or if they do, it's a small IT team. Maybe their network systems are handled by their IT department. If during this video or any of our other videos you want to have a chat with me, link to my calendar is in the description of the video. And all you have to do is go in there and basically book an appointment with me. If you could put a little bit of details in as to what we're going to talk about, that would be great. And then I could be prepared to have a conversation with you and answer any questions you have. And that time will be set aside and reserved for you. When should you customize an ERP? I'm going to try and give you a really simple answer to that question because I think it should be a really simple question for most customers. And this gets back to, I say this a lot, but I'm going to keep saying it, which is when you need to, not when you want to. And be very, very cautious between needing and wanting. The answer is not never customize. I'll get into that a little bit later. But deciding to customize should really be based on an ROI, return on investment decision. You should really be looking at customizations and saying, how long or how much effort would it take me to do this customization if it was, if I had to do or not do this customization, what would the time be for my staff to do something? So example, let's say using an ERP natively without doing the customization would require somebody to do something for 10 hours a week. But if you customize it and it's not too complicated, you could bring that down from 10 hours to 1 hour. That's a really simple decision to make. And in general, I think that should be the driving force of the decision. Saving 9 hours a week, which is 450 hours a year, if my math is right, is a really substantial amount of time. And it would definitely pay for anything but the most expensive customization. So how do I decide on the right complexity? Because maybe I could take it from 10 hours to no time. Don't think about that. Don't think about automating. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but try and think about semi-automating processes. So if you have a process that's very manual and you can semi-automate it, you're going to really cut into the length of time that takes. But if you're trying to automate the process, what's going to happen is you have to build in all kinds of double checks and triple checks into the system that humans would normally do, but now you need the computer to do it. And computers are notoriously bad at recognizing patterns. So a computer isn't going to know that a regularly programmed computer system isn't going to know that, oh, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Acme would automatically be done and Zebra wouldn't automatically be done. It has no way of knowing that. So it's just going to automate things, and it'll automate mistakes just as quickly as it automates processes. So I recommend that you keep those customizations simple. You let humans be the double check to make sure that there are no mistakes being made by the automation. And if you take your 10-hour example and reduce it to 1 hour, that's a huge benefit. But if you want to fully automate it and you want to go from 10 hours to 1 minute, you're just really going to ramp up the cost of that automation. It might even cost 10 times more to save that last hour. And that starts to get iffy to do your price, your ROI, your return on investment on that customization. Because, what is really the benefit now of 50 hours a year versus spending 10 times as much money on that? So start with that 1 hour version. Start with the simple. Let the ERP consultant say, let's just do it this way, and don't argue with them, but we can make it better. Just let the simple version go through, and then, then you can enhance that. Okay, so some things not to do. Number one, don't reproduce any control reports you have in your system. So this is a generic term that I use to refer to reports that were created to try and control process. So an example I see quite often is I see a lot of reports that are created in ERP systems to prevent people from forgetting something, forgetting to purchase. So it's maybe an inventory control report. It runs, it shows the total dollar value of inventory in the system, or it shows all the jobs that are due, and it shows the inventory required on that job, or there's something that it does, but it does it because people would make mistakes and somebody created the report to prevent the mistakes from being made. Just assume that the new ERP probably implemented that process in some other way and the report is no longer going to be needed. You can always talk to the consultants that are doing the project and just double check if that's correct, but just operate under the assumption that all of those reports, all of those processes you created to prevent errors that humans were making because humans were not using the system correctly, you're going to use the system correctly and those errors won't happen. So don't reproduce them. Number two, never ever arbitrarily say, we will never customize. You will lock your team into a situation where they may be painted in a corner by that decision. So refusing to customize where it makes sense is just as bad for your business as doing way too many customizations and ending up with a system that's untenable because of that. So you could get a system that's untenable because you refuse to do any customizations just as easily as a system that's untenable because you did way too many customizations. There's always a sweet spot. There's always a point where there are too many customizations or there are too few, and there's a Goldilocks level where you've got the right number for you. Now, that could be 0 or very, very few, or could be more. It depends on your business. 3, don't try and outthink the ERP designers. If you are looking at a system in the ERP, a feature of the ERP, and the consultants say, this is how it's supposed to work, and it's supposed to handle, for instance, making sure your purchasing department doesn't forget to place orders for materials that are required on jobs, then when you see it and you don't understand it, don't assume that they don't know how to do that and they've screwed up and it won't work. Chances are there are tens of thousands of companies using it. And if the ERP has a way to do something, that way has probably been tested and refined and validated way more than your staff could come up with an idea. And they've thought about all those consequences that you haven't thought about. You may look at it and say, well, this should be really simple. I don't know why they've made it so complicated. They probably made it more complicated than you think because you're not realizing all the ramifications of different things that are happening. Because they've built in those safeguards that you have to think about, you would become responsible for thinking of. And if you can't think of what they are, then you're going to miss them. You're going to implement your system, and all of a sudden you're going to find that you've painted yourself in a corner and there are lots of problems being created. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and follow our YouTube channel. I'm trying to do videos like this every week through the winter and spring, and we'll get back into them now that the fall is over. And please click the subscribe button. You can click the bell icon, follow us. If you'd like to reach out to me and make contact, or you'd like to reach our website, we're at www.sabrelimited.com. You can email me at sales@sabrelimited.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/Rob Jolliffe. Have a great day.